my dear traveler. You've returned for another tale. Come, settle yourself by the fire. The flames are dancing particularly beautifully tonight, aren't they? Here, let me pour you some dragon's breath tea. Don't worry, it's not actually from a dragon, though the spices do come from the volcanic regions down south. The cinnamon bark grows only in places where the earth runs hot, where ancient fires still burn beneath the stone. Speaking of dragons, that reminds me of something extraordinary that happened to me. Oh, it must have been 500 years ago now. Or was it 450? Time blurs together when you've lived as long as I have. But this memory, this one remains as vivid as the flames before us. It was a tale of the last of something precious, something the world believed was gone forever. You see, dear friend, dragons had not been seen in these lands for 400 years. Most folk believed them to be nothing more than stories, tales told by grandfathers to wide-eyed children. But I had the most extraordinary fortune to meet the very last one. So warm your hands by the fire, pull that blanket close, and let me tell you of Ember Vale, where the earth bleeds fire, and where I discovered that some legends, some beautiful, terrible legends, are more real than we dare to hope. It began, as these things often do, with a need for something rare. I had been working on a particularly challenging spell, one that required lava rock. Not just any volcanic stone, mind you, but true lava rock, stone that had been kissed by dragon fire in ages past. Such stones are found only in the deepest volcanic regions, places where the earth's blood runs close to the surface. And so, I found myself journeying south toward the Ember Vale. Now, the Ember Vale is not a place for casual travelers, dear friend. It lies high in the southern mountains, a land of perpetual twilight, where the sky glows red from the fires below. The air shimmers with heat. Even in winter, steam rises from every crevice, and the ground beneath your feet is always warm to the touch. I remember the first time I saw it, cresting the mountain pass as the sun was setting. Below me stretched a valley unlike any other, dotted with bubbling pools of molten rock, crisscrossed by rivers of lava that glowed like liquid sunlight. The very air tasted of sulfur and ancient flame. It was beautiful and terrible and utterly alive. I made my camp that first night on the rim of the vale, where the ground was merely warm rather than scorching. The night sounds were unlike anything I'd heard before. The deep rumbling of the earth, the hiss of steam, the distant crack of cooling stone. But there was something else, something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. A feeling, as if I was being watched by eyes older than memory. I descended into the vale the next morning, following paths worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims seeking the same precious stones I was after. The deeper I went, the more the world seemed to change around me. Plants grew here that existed nowhere else. Flowers that bloomed in defiance of the heat, their petals the color of flame. And that's when I heard it, a sound that shouldn't have existed, a sound the world hadn't heard for 4 centuries, the deep, resonant call of a dragon. Now, you must understand, I nearly convinced myself I'd imagined it. Dragons were extinct. Everyone knew that. The last confirmed sighting had been 400 years past. Yet there it was again, that unmistakable sound echoing off the valley walls like distant thunder. I followed the sound deeper into the vale, my heart hammering in my chest. The path led me to a vast cavern, its entrance partially hidden by a curtain of steam from a nearby hot spring. The opening was easily large enough for something very large indeed. I called out, softly at first, then with more courage, "Hello, is someone there?" And then, my dear friend, then I saw her. She emerged from the depths of the cavern like a dream made manifest. Scales that caught the light like polished copper, eyes the color of molten gold, and a presence that filled the very air with ancient wisdom. She was magnificent, terrible and beautiful, and utterly, completely real. The last dragon. Her name, I learned, was Pyria the Eternal, though she told me later that she hadn't spoken her true name aloud in over a century. She was lonely, you see. Imagine being the very last of your kind, carrying all the memories of your people with no one left to share them with. Now, where was I? Ah, yes. Now, you might expect that meeting a dragon would be a terrifying experience, and I won't lie to you. There was fear, but there was also wonder and an overwhelming sadness when I realized what I was looking at. The last of the dragons. She could have incinerated me with a thought, could have crushed me like an insect. Instead, she invited me to sit with her by the lava pools and share stories. You see, dragons, true dragons, are creatures of memory. They collect stories the way we collect books, treasuring each tale, each moment of connection. We spent 3 days together in that cavern. She told me of the old world, when dragons and men lived in harmony, when the skies were filled with wings, when the mountains echoed with dragon song. I told her of the world as it was now, of the wonders and the sorrows, the changes and the constants. But I had come to Ember Vale for lava rock, and I still needed to find it. Pyria understood. Dragons have always respected the pursuit of magic. She told me where to look. Deep pools where the lava had cooled just so, creating stones of incredible power. But I wasn't the only seeker in Ember Vale that season. On my 4th day, as I was carefully extracting lava rock from a cooling pool, I heard voices, human voices, calling out in what sounded like distress. Following the sounds, I found them near one of the more active lava flows. 2 travelers who had clearly gotten themselves into quite a predicament. One was a woman, skilled smith by the look of her tools and leather apron. Her name was Diora, and she had traveled from the northern kingdom seeking the same precious stones I was after. Her companion was injured, had fallen and twisted his ankle quite badly. They were stranded, unable to navigate the treacherous paths back to safety. Now, here's where the story becomes interesting, dear friend. I could help these travelers. I had the knowledge and the supplies, but doing so would mean revealing the dragon's presence, and Pariah had hidden herself for good reason. I made a choice. I helped Diora get her companion to safety, using my magic to ease his pain and my knowledge of the Vale to guide them to a safe camp. But I said nothing of the dragon. Diora was remarkable, a master smith who worked with metals most craftspeople could only dream of touching. She had come seeking lava rock to forge a sword, not for conquest or glory, but to protect her village from raiders who had been terrorizing the northern roads. We worked together for several days, I helping her navigate the dangerous terrain of Ember Vale, she sharing her knowledge of metalwork and storytelling. She had a gift for tales, stories of the Northlands, of snow-covered forests and crystal lakes. And Pariah, well, dragons are curious creatures. She began watching us from a distance, listening to Diora's stories with the same hunger for narrative that all dragons possess. On our 7th day together, something wonderful happened. Diora had been telling a particularly beautiful tale about the northern lights, how they dance across the winter sky like spirits celebrating. Her voice carried in the still air of the Vale, and Pariah, drawn by the beauty of the story, came closer than she ever had before. Diora saw her. I'll never forget that moment, dear traveler. The look of absolute wonder on Diora's face, the careful way she rose to her feet, the respectful bow she offered to the greatest creature she would ever meet. And Pariah. Oh, Pariah seemed to grow brighter in that moment. For the first time in centuries, she was truly seen. Not feared, not hunted, but recognized for what she was. The living memory of an age of wonders. They spoke in the way that souls recognize kindred spirits across any divide. Diora shared stories of her people. Pariah shared memories of the sky roads dragons once traveled. The smith showed her work. Pariah breathed a gentle flame to help temper a blade. For 3 precious days, we existed in a world where dragons and humans were partners again, where the old harmony lived, if only in our small corner of creation. But all good things, even the most magical ones, must eventually end. Diora's companion was healed, her quest for lava rock complete. She had a village to return to, people depending on her protection. And Pariah had to return to her solitude. The world wasn't ready for dragons again, might never be ready. Too much fear had grown in the centuries of separation. Our farewell was bittersweet. Diora promised to keep the dragon's secret, to ensure that Pariah's peace would remain undisturbed. But she also promised something else, to tell stories, to keep alive the memory of what dragons truly were. Not monsters, not creatures of destruction, but guardians of memory, keepers of the old wisdom, partners in the great dance of creation. I helped Diora and her companion find their way back to the mountain passes, saw them safely on their road north. She carried with her the finest lava rock sword ever forged, tempered by dragon flame, cooled by northern snow, crafted by hands guided by ancient wisdom. And I stayed one more day with Pariah. We sat together by the lava pools as the sun set over Ember Vale, sharing one final story. She told me of the dragon roads, paths through the sky that only her kind could see. highways of wind and starlight that once connected every corner of the world. Will there ever be dragons again? I asked her. She was quiet for a long time, her golden eyes reflecting the glow of the lava. Finally, she said, "As long as there are those who remember us truly, as long as stories are told with love rather than fear, we are not gone. We are simply waiting." When I left Ember Vale the next morning, I carried with me everything I had come for, and so much more. Lava rock for my spell, yes, but also the memory of wonder, the knowledge that magic still exists in forms we've forgotten to look for. I never returned to Ember Vale, though I often thought of it over the years. Sometimes, in the deep of winter, I would dream of that warm valley, of steam rising from the lava pools, of golden eyes full of ancient kindness. And sometimes, just sometimes, when the wind is right and the stars align in certain patterns, I swear I can hear it, distant and faint but unmistakable, the song of the last dragon, carried on winds that remember when the sky was full of wings. And so, dear friend, that is the tale of the last dragon of Ember Vale, a reminder that some things we believe lost forever are simply waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Diora returned to her northern village. Her lava rock sword became legend in those parts. They say it never dulled, never broke, and that in the darkest moments it seemed to glow with inner fire. As for Pariah, I like to think she's still there, guardian of the old ways, keeper of dragon memory, waiting, as she said, for the world to be ready for wonder again. The fire grows low now, and these old bones are feeling the pull of sleep, whether you're settling in for the night or simply taking a moment's rest from the day's journey. Remember the dragon's wisdom. Some things are worth waiting for, some stories are worth keeping alive, and some magic, some beautiful, impossible magic, is still out there in the quiet corners of the world. Rest well, traveler. May your dreams be filled with the song of dragons, and may you always keep your heart open to wonder. The fire will burn through the night, keeping the darkness at bay, keeping the stories warm until morning comes again.